Hello. Before I start making reels and videos related to the topic of what's common between neurointegration method and Native Americans' wisdom related to the human path, I would like to create a couple of reels and videos related to ground and basic ideas which you should know and which are very interesting and very important. I believe these ideas are fundamental and you should know about them because when they build a road, they put stones one by one. So today's topic is Native Americans' proverb: there are two wolves inside us, one is good and another is evil. Always wins the one you feed. We all know that it is not too hard to learn something new, but not too many of us know that relearning is much harder than learning from scratch. Today I will tell about effective relearning. Let's imagine that this red neuron displays your neural pathway of sustainable behavior of any bad habit. Of course, this behavior had some years of development, probably across the years of adolescence period or near it. It can be any kind of bad habit like going to bed late, late eating, or any addiction like alcohol, computer games, smoking, whatever. In our example, let's say it is light alcohol addiction. Let's suppose that these neurons and each of them represent a subnetwork of a bigger neural network, because there are millions or thousands of neurons in big neural networks. So it is just not possible to visualize a complete neural network on the display. That's why each neuron here represents a logical principal subnetwork of neural network. So let's add a couple more neurons, and let's say that the first added neuron represents a subnetwork which was developed by alcohol consumption when you walked outside evenings in the past. Second one was born and became stronger during night club parties. The third one was developed during celebrations. And the fourth one is that you used to like alcohol to relax on Fridays, and this attracts you much today. Of course, we might add more subnetworks when you consumed alcohol mixing it with coffee, cigarettes, or sex, and so on. This is really interesting. A person might have several subnetworks related to this behavior, his preferences, his desires, and based on these several subnetworks developed during some years, your alcohol neural network activates his behavior of consuming alcohol. Let's connect them. It doesn't matter is consumption of alcohol takes place on Fridays in big amounts or during the weekdays in small amounts. Anyway, this person has a sustainable habit and he decided to get rid of that. What most people try to do in this case? They try not to drink, not to run this activity, not to run this neural pathway, and it comes out that they feel like they want something but they do nothing, and they feel something like envy, yearning, even like some feelings related to death, let's say near death feelings. Because when you have a hand, you use it to work with your hand. When you try not to work with it, you feel like you have no hand. So let's say on Fridays you use it to consume alcohol and relax. You're just not doing that, but you want to do that, and it feels like in this period you're like paralyzed and you may not clearly feel what's happening. And usually people who have stronger addiction run their old habit. Then there might come smart advice from a side they advise you to substitute alcohol again and again. Here we have another problem that most people, especially who are alcohol addicted, they just deny that the other activities can substitute the consumption of alcohol. This means that when we say them, let's try some sports, they respond like, oh no, I never tried it before, why should I try it now? So this is the biggest delusion, when people say, I didn't like it in childhood, why should I like it now? And it doesn't attract me now. Here another native proverb takes place: don't judge a man until you have walked 2 months in his moccasins. Because when you try something for more than 60 days, you gain new sustainable neural connections, and you can understand that the activity you perform over this period is clearly visible for you and you understand it. So this means that on first step you should try your activity at least 5 times and at most 60 times, but preferably from 10 to 20 times. It can be a new sport activity, new habit, new operational activity, just something you have never used to perform. And if you did not like it over this period, then you can change it. But to understand this activity, you should try it for 10-15 times during the 60 days period. And then after 60 days, no matter how much time you try it, 3, 5 or 10, but as I said, 5 I always recommend as minimum, and 10 to 15 is enough to get familiar well with this activity, to get experience and get your new neural connections. These neural connections become sustainable at least after 60 days. Let's get back to our example of Friday's alcohol consumption, and let's say after 60 days of the new activity training period, 2 activations takes place on Friday. So let's add new neural network of positive behavior, positive habit that you just developed. And let's see that on Fridays they fire together. They activate right after 60 days, they activate about on same level of energy, but you see that old habit is still bigger, it's still geographically more widespread. Let's say it is still stronger. It can still suppress. If you stop performing new activity and still continue performing old one, that it's likely suppress and replace new activity. So in this case you should not feed bad wolf, because it will override new neural network. So what you have to do for the first 60 days? You have to just mechanically repeat this new good and healthy activity without thinking and without considering whether you like it or not. When you repeat it mechanically, this new neural network has a chance to survive because it becomes stronger and it spreads like this. So mechanical repetition gives some force to this new positive neural pathway. And vice versa, this blue new positive habit overrides the old habit. Okay, why in the same place I draw them, near each other? Because of associative memory. For example, it is Friday and your brain works on Fridays before weekends with emotional variables. It's anticipation of relaxation and restoration. And your brain works in this one neural pathway which is associated geographically, temporarily and emotionally. And this one neural space is already busy with old, rolled over with bad habit pathways neural network. When you try to relay a new neural pathway near an old rolled one, of course there often will happen clashes of these two energies. So the first step is the 60 days mechanical repetition period. After 60 days you feel like you have a choice. First you perceive that you can choose, that you can do something and you are not forced to repeat your behavior related to addiction. You can do something to relax without it. When you understand it, you gain in more and more positive widespread neural subnetworks which allow you to avoid unwanted habit. Again, after you mechanically repeat a new activity for 60 days, you can think about it and you can understand whether you like it or not. Then you can try another activity. Here comes the proverb, don't judge a man until you walk in his moccasins 2 moons. We don't know from where Native Americans know about 60-day period of neural pathway formation, but this proverb directly related to new activities for relaxation, also for new skills, for new career path, like you may consider to re-educate yourself, becoming someone like an informational technology specialist, and you say, oh, that's not for me, I'm an old school guy, or I don't feel there is something appealing to me. Remember, you just not judge a man until you have walked 2 moons in his moccasins. You should try it when you are still looking for yourself in some direction. When you want some new profession, you don't have enough experience to understand. Do you like it or not? Your initial negative thoughts are wrong. There are many modern professions exist today like blogging, vlogging, Instagramming, programming, data science, welding, so on. But unfortunately, many people say that they are not born for that. They say that they just deeply convinced that they are not for that, not even trying to do that. So try to see if it gives you some benefits. Try at least 2 months, at least 10-15 times. Trying every day, of course, is the best. Maybe except weekends is perfect. You understand if you like it or not in 60 days, in 2 months, but at least within 10 tries. Then you can judge. Believe me, I re-educated more than 50 software engineers and more than 20 software development specialists overall. This kind of re-education takes 1-3 years depending on the technology you want to learn, and it's a bit hard, but it's worth that. When the 60 days discipline period ends, then you gain first sustainable, resilient, fail-safe habit, which of course is based on widespread neural subnetworks and relays you developed. And this way, if you continue repeating this activity, this network widespreads and suppresses and destroys the old habit during every activation, destroying old connection, even if they are still deeply somewhere there in the brain. So what I mean is just your new neural connection, it widespreads long below old neural connection and connects where it needs. Okay. If you continue after these 60 days, the principles takes place. When you continue maybe about 6 months to 1 year, this new habit becomes your principle and it's completely stronger than your old bad habit. And the stem of new habit becomes more larger and larger. And the next step, when you do this 1 year or more, it builds so much sustainable and strong stem that it becomes your identity. You completely destroy and suppress old habit. And suppress old habits such that your new principle is now your identity. And when it is your identity, it's like the same you can do with your hand, and you don't know how to not act with your new hand. The same at the beginning was a bad habit. Now it's your new habit. Just you use it to eat. And now when it is your identity, you know only one way of action on Fridays to relax with your new healthy activity. And of course, on each step from discipline to habits to principles and finally to identity, the more times you run your new activity, the stronger your neural pathways become, because every time they work, they perform the annihilation of old network and replace them with new network connections. So as you see, the old work probably takes place, but the more neural connection of new habit we have, the more we override the pathways and the relays of the old bad habit neural network, and soon it will be destroyed. So this is all what I had to say about first basic topic related to 60 days of neural connection formation and to how old habits conflict new habits on the level of neurophysiology, and how we can use the wisdom of Native Americans. And now we visually see it, and we are able to visualize that we should not allow old neural construction of bad habit to twist new positive habit formation, which is weak at the beginning, especially at first 60 days period. Because there are two wolves inside us. One is good and another is evil. Always wins the one you feed.